welcome everyone to the e-commerce series, How to Thrive in 2025. So back in winter I interviewed 21 different e-commerce experts and asked the best thing they'd used their data for last year to grow their business, and asked them to explain how they're going to use it this year. This went into a report which I'm just going to post into the chat here. So the chat is under Dello Insights Media, is where you can get access to the report. And from the report, I then invited all the experts to come on a webinar, really talking to you about how to implement into your business the tip that they'd suggested. So it's really been interesting. I've done one so far and it went really, really well. My second one is today, and welcome Louise Beasley. Unfortunately, hello. Matthew was going to join us, but he's not available. Had a last minute crisis. But Louise is going to talk to us about marketing and advertising effectiveness and how to make a real impact in your business, which is obviously very important at the moment in the world of rising advertising costs, then reduced benefits from doing the marketing side. So Louise, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Louise Beasley. I run a boutique digital ads agency. So I am a digital ad strategist. I focus on e-commerce. My niche is, I do kind of various different things, but my niche is primarily in working with brands that are working in the gifting, fashion, skincare sort of sector, and mostly work with brands that are targeting women in their 30 plus age range. I like to call it as my products that bring joy. I like to advertise products that are, the kind of thing that are going to bring some joy into people's lives. That's where I fit naturally.
Thank you, Louise. That's a great introduction. And so what was your tip that you gave for the report?
Okay, so my tip was kind of two-pronged really. So it was regarding taking a holistic approach to your advertising rather than putting everything into its own silo. So keeping your organic, your meta ads, etc., looking at them all separately. You have to take a holistic approach to them all. And the other branch of that tip was to work with the platforms, and particularly embracing the new developments such as the AI-driven targeting and other elements that are in flux all the time, always changing, going with the flow, but also maintaining your understanding of your data.
Wow. Thank you. By the way, we've got a live chat going, so if anyone wants to post in the live chat any questions or comments, then please do that. So, Louise, that's a really great tip and very, very timely at the moment. Who would you say that tip is most relevant for? What kind of people really need to use that tip?
I mean, I think it's really relevant to anyone who's in e-com and marketing, and particularly to brands who are maybe not as well established on their advertising journey, that are in the process of establishing themselves and working out what works. But really, the whole holistic approach is beneficial to everyone to kind of take that approach. I think that is something that I would really strongly recommend that anyone working in e-com works with.
Mm-hmm. So if we want to go with the approach we're going to do this, where do we get started? What would we go from nothing to 100%? Or?
Well, I think what the most important thing, and it's not just small businesses that have this, it's businesses of all sizes, is getting a really good understanding of your metrics and your data, and not just what the different benchmarks are in your industry, but what they are for you, making sure that you understand and factor in all your costs and understand what a good return on investment is for you. I think that's the ground step, the first step in the process that is glossed over quite often. People don't really get to understand their data. If you interrogate your data early on and you know where your targets are and you can set realistic targets, then that's definitely the first step of the process, and then it all slots into place. But without that groundwork, it's really difficult to make the progress that you want to see in ads.
Or to measure it as well is the other thing, being a very measurement focused person.
Yeah.
If you don't know what was happening before you've made a change, then how do you know if it's worked or not?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that step by step, and testing, as you know, testing is crucial, and you've got to be doing that all the time. It's not a case of you start putting your ads out there and then you get to where you want to be with them. That's not a thing. That's not a place that you're aiming for. You just keep progressing and keep changing all the time. The platforms change all the time. What people respond to change all the time. So it's that being open to testing and seeing it as a journey rather than a destination, I think.
very much incremental change, a strategic
Yeah,
process, do something,
absolutely.
optimise
And
it again and again.
really data driven with it, really data driven. So not just you feel like this is working, you need to really interrogate, is that really working? It might have the highest number of conversions, but you need to understand what the rest of that customer journey is, and all of the different elements of how that ad is performing for you, and whether it's hitting your targets.
So you're talking about a continuous change process, and obviously the software and the tools are changing all the time. So maybe you'd like to just tell us some more about these recent changes, especially on the Meta platform.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this is all really new, but Meta is changing quite significantly. I thought this call is actually very timely given the changes that are in progress at the moment. As you say, these platforms change all the time. There's not, there's rarely a week will go past that you don't notice some new element or something's changed or been removed. So that's a constant. That's always changing. But Meta have actually rolled out, or are beginning to roll out, a brand new type of campaign. So they're replacing their Advantage Plus shopping campaign. Now that's something that's been around for quite a few years now. I think it's probably about 2021 that came in. And since then, obviously, it's been evolving over time. Their AI targeting has been getting better all the time. And now there's a change going on. And even those of us working really closely in Meta have yet to see how this is going to play out. But Advantage Plus shopping has been a game changer for e-com, but it's being slowly phased out with Advantage Sales campaign coming in. There are some unknowns around this. I don't actually have it live in any of my client accounts yet, but it is coming. It's basically changed. Some of the significant changes are that one of the things that we've all come to rely on in Advantage Plus shopping campaigns is the existing customer cap. So you could set a percentage. Now that's going, which a lot of people in advertising and a lot of e-com brands are a bit concerned about. But there are elements of it that could be quite helpful in terms of the direction that it's moving in. And a lot of that, as I said, is still to be seen. But what we do know is that Meta has invested insane amounts of money in their AI, and the majority of that goes into targeting. We know that Meta targeting is getting better and better all the time, and they obviously feel that this is the next iteration of that. So the sales campaign will be targeting using the creative. The move was anyone working in or doing advertising a few years ago would be very aware of things like interest-based audience, lookalike audiences. These things are gradually being phased out because Meta's AI targeting is so good. Meta now see the creative as the targeting. So it's a real shift in how you need to think about how you're going to get in front of your people. And it makes you realise how important that creative is. That creative is more important than it has ever been, because that will drive who Meta is serving the ads to. So with these new campaigns coming in, lots of unknowns, but it is their latest way of driving you into using their AI targeting. Now, a lot of more established businesses can get a bit set in their ways, and that's, this is the way we've always done it, and we're going to stick to this, and we want to do manual campaigns, and there's of course place for all of that, and if it's working, absolutely stick with it. But if there's a new product coming in, you have to roll with it, you have to embrace it, and you have to, within reason, I wouldn't recommend you just uniformly go, Meta's saying I should do this, so I should do it. What you have to do is kind of pull the bits that are working for you and test the bits that are new, and try and work out how it's going to work for your brand. You don't want to get set in your ways and sticking to the old ways, because those changes are coming whether you like it or not.
I think for a long time we've heard about all these changes, and suddenly the forces come, and the speed of the evolution just so fast all the time now, isn't it? So
yeah,
and it's very, very hard, for an individual company or business to keep up with it all as it goes on so quickly, and to know they're actually getting the benefits from it. So, and I know you mentioned that it can often be more messy to measure things once you start getting this blended mix. There's the old manual way of doing it, you can then more easily measure what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, attribution is a huge issue for everybody working in. Unless you're working on one platform, which most businesses aren't, then attribution is simpler. But even so, platforms will overestimate their involvement in a conversion. So there are some really fantastic tools out there like Triple Whale or ThoughtMetric, or they're third-party tools basically that pull all your data in. You can even link them up to your website depending on what platform you're using. Pull all your data in and look at the different touch points and attribute conversion data in a much more measured way, looking at the whole picture. So this is where the holistic approach comes in. They do have a cost associated with them, but they are really brilliant tools of trying to understand your data a bit more. And I think a lot of brands really rely on that now, because Meta will be saying its ROAS is X, its attribution level is a certain height. You need to interrogate that a bit more aggressively to really get to the bottom of what's happening. And also keeping in mind with that, you may find that, say you're running ads on Google and Meta, and your Google ROAS is fantastic, but your Meta one isn't so great. There could be a tendency for you to take that data and think, well, I should put more spend into Google and less into Meta. But actually Meta's probably driving a huge amount of that. And using these third-party tools gives you a much better idea, being able to understand that Meta is your top of funnel, and people are then coming along later converting. And you can even see how many touch points down to each individual conversion. It might be as many as 10 touch points, and that will be your organic, your email, your Google, Meta, TikTok, wherever you're advertising. So if you want to kind of get a really good understanding of it, those third-party tools are very helpful.
And then it just adds costs as well as time to understand it by having to go off to a different platform. You then got
It
costs
does,
associated with that
unfortunately,
platform.
yes, it does.
And then you've got the cost of actually interpreting all the data as well. So
Yes, indeed. Yeah, that's the other thing. It's interpreting your data, and that's why at the beginning I said that getting a real understanding of what that data means to you. It's all very well going, oh, I've got a 2% click-through rate, that's amazing. But if you don't know what is going on around that, and whether that's those people are converting, and what the customer journey is doing, and all of the other elements, ads are just a cog in the machine. They're a really important cog, but they are just a cog in the bigger machine. So I think you're right though, it does add a lot of knowledge requirement, and just trying to drill down into that data, it can be quite overwhelming.
And you must feel that lack of control. You've got the control where you've measured it, you've got control of the output, but then you've got no control over the middle process. From setting your budget, I assume, and then you kind of let it work its magic, don't you? And have to believe it's doing the right thing.
Yeah, exactly. And whilst I say lean into the changes, it's also really important that you are completely on it with what's happening in your account. So leaning into it and just allowing it to spend. I mean, if you're on Google, for example, if you just give your Performance Max campaign a massive budget, it will just spend it all, and then you won't necessarily get the results that you want. So it's knowing how to negotiate that on each platform as well. So what campaigns will just spend, and where you need to be really closely monitoring in Meta, particularly on an ad by ad basis. What Meta can get really carried away and just decide to put all of its budget into something that's getting a good click-through rate, but it's not actually converting. So if you're not in there daily, I'm in my clients' ad accounts multiple times every day just to check what Meta's doing and where it's spending and where it's prioritizing, and to tweak, to guide it to up and down budgets, to pause ads that it's over prioritizing. So there's absolutely no element of just set up and let it go. You need to lean into the AI and utilize it to your benefit, but you've got to really be on it as well.
So in terms of your job, obviously you've been doing all these ads for quite a while. And there's all this talk about the job disappearing within AI, and it's not about the job disappearing, it's just that the role itself has changed. What's been the biggest change that you've seen?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It's not about the role disappearing. It's changing, and the speed of change is phenomenal. And I think when I first started doing this, there was so much focus on audiences and how you're going to build and how you're going to target. I mean, that's not gone, but it has completely changed the way we look at it and the way we set up campaigns and think about that and plan. And I think AI it's a phenomenal tool for advertisers, not just in terms of what the targeting within the platforms is. There are elements of Meta AI. Anyone that's built an ad and turned on all their optimizations will be like, some of these are really just not there yet, or some of them I just absolutely never touched. But in terms of the targeting, it's phenomenal. And I think leaning into that and understanding why Meta are doing the things that they've done and the changes that they're making. And I think, it's easy to think when you hear that Meta is spending X number of billions on AI, I think a lot of people think that is about the augmented ads, the elements of the ad, but the vast majority of that is on how you're to get the creative to target the right people. And I think, yeah, that's the biggest thing. But also AI, just, even down to ChatGPT and using that for prompts for your copy and for how you would structure certain things. I think it's a real benefit to everybody that's working in ads, and it's certainly not going to remove the necessity for an ads manager anytime soon. I think that has become really clear. I understand why people are concerned about that kind of thing, but you still need to manage. You need humans in there managing that account on a daily basis.
It's fascinating though, but it's not optional now, is it? You can't optionally put your head in the sand anymore, can you?
No.
Say, I'm not dealing with AI. A few years ago you could say, yeah, I'm not dealing with AI, I don't care about it. Whereas now you just can't, can you?
No,
I think
absolutely.
That's a change. Absolutely. You've got to be aware of it, know what it's doing, why it's doing it, and then make an informed decision.
Yeah, and I think, anyone that's been managing ads for a very long time, I think there can be a tendency for people to say, this is how we've done it, this is how we do it, this is my process. I'm much more open to try, and I get quite excited about the new stuff coming in. I want to try it all, I want to test it all, and just because you've always done it that way, the environment has changed even since this report came out. So much has changed, and that's just a short amount of time since the report was put together. I think it's just being really open to what's coming and what's next. And when Meta make a big change, like they've been rolling out this new campaign type, the platform itself has been an absolute nightmare to work with for the last few weeks because they're doing a lot behind the scenes. But I think if you weren't in it every day, you wouldn't see quite how much is changing and adapting all the time. And I think, all you can do is roll with that, and it's their platform. You've got no control over it. You can't say, I'm going to stick to doing it my way, because your way just won't work anymore. This is the direction they're moving in, and you have to kind of jolly along with it and hope that you can kind of learn it as you go. And you do, you learn it as you go.
That's really interesting, thank you. So I've got a couple more questions. So if I was launching a new product, and obviously there's no history for it, is there? Whereas AI is so reliant on knowing what's happened in the past. But how would you then get it, because it wouldn't pick up in my head it wouldn't then pick up this product because it's not got good sales against it, therefore it won't put the budget against it. So how would you introduce a new product, or if you're launching a new brand, how would you get Meta or Google working with you in this kind of AI world?
Yeah, so I think it's all about the creative for Meta. If your creative is a good representation of your product, whether it be a video or a single image or whatever you're using, then in theory, Meta will find your people based upon that creative, and of course your copy. But that is, I was at a conference at Meta last year, and they couldn't have stressed that more than they did. It's just that the creative is king, and if you're getting that wrong, then that's where your ads will fall down. But I think, obviously if you're launching a brand new account, you've got no data, you may not even have an audience list, you may have nothing that you can pull in, because Meta, although it's targeting using a creative, it still really learns if you've got an audience list or you've got pixel data. Those really inform its choices on who it serves the ad to. But that doesn't mean it's not going to work. I've just launched a campaign last week actually for a new client who had no history in their Meta account of any purchase conversions at all, and it's just flown. It's flown fantastically, and they have they've done a bit of reach, etc., but nothing major, and it works. It does work. It finds the people that it needs to serve it to. I think with Google, it's more. It's still more elements of the traditional PPC. They're more, making sure that you're getting your search terms right and doing your research, working out, using ads planner, keyword planner, going in and really interrogating what people are searching for when they want to purchase your product. And there's great ways of creating. If you're using, for example, the Performance Max, which is the AI-driven main e-commerce campaign type in Google these days, there are brilliant ways of building your audience using ChatGPT prompts is really helpful. So for pulling in search themes, using GMC to look at the competitors that they've flagged there. There's lots of ways that you can build that and pull that together and get a really robust audience signal that will then be fed into the Performance Max campaign, and it will really help it understand who it's targeting. So there's a lot of manual effort involved in it still. So although we're saying, I'd say lean into the AI, you also need to make sure that you're coming from the right place and that you're really giving it the guidance that it needs. Just going in and setting up a ASC with no purchasers, nothing, or a PMAX with very little in terms of audience data and where you want, what direction you want to guide it into. Like, there's still interesting things you can add in Google as well, which really helps flesh that out. So giving it as much as possible to go on, rather than just saying, here's my creative, off you go, is really important.
And the other thing I've heard is making sure it doesn't break. I heard about a website and they changed their cookie policy, and suddenly, all the cookies failed. They weren't getting the first party data, and Google PMAX recognised that, and then it stopped putting any money on the campaign. So they planned obviously their Christmas budget, and then the Christmas budget just didn't happen because Google didn't attribute anything at all, so it sort of spent all the money. So they're in this horrible decline, and they didn't realise for a while what had happened, and then it took them even longer to fix it. So I think that's the other thing about AI, when it does go wrong, if you're not there on top of it, as you say, monitoring, checking multiple times.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I advise in a group of people going on their ads journey, and I was advising someone just this week actually who was saying, I don't know why I'm getting all these click-throughs and getting all these add to carts, nothing's working. I said, well, just, I'll have a look at your customer journey, and popped in there, looked at it, and it's broken. The link is broken to go on to checkout. So, it's simple things like that. So it's, it's such a big machine, and all of those bits need to be working. Things like things like website speed and all of that customer journey. Once you get beyond the ads can only do so much. And if there's a link broken, you can have a link checker script, which is really good in Google, which will alert you every day if there's anything broken. So presumably if the person that you spoke to had that issue might not have arisen. So there's so many moving parts, and the tech, particularly on Google, is challenging to get right.
It's amazing. Thank you ever so much, Louise. I think we need to stop here on taking up any more of your time. That was an amazing chat, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
No, and I'll put it now. I'll be recording it and it'll go live on my website very soon, so I'm going to press stop now.
Great.